I'm really looking forward to leading this APPG and raising the profile of parks and green spaces on the Westminster agenda. I know from my own constituency experience how important parks are and how vital it is that we make sure that they continue to survive and be there for people.
First of all, I think we asked the question, what would happen if there weren't any parks? What would our environment look like? Well, yeah, if you just drove around a city and all it was buildings and no open space, it would be a very different place to live in. We made a number of recommendations. It'd be interesting to see from those of you involved in parks on a day-to-day, hands-on basis, how you think things may have improved or haven't, because the word haven't is also important because we want to pick up those issues that need further stimulus.
These are urgent parliamentary issues. I heard what Clive said about ring fencing. I understand we shouldn't spend our time exhausting ourselves barking up trees that really aren't going to yield any particular result. But funding is absolutely critical, and we do have to work together to find a way to make sure that parks do receive the proper funding they need. Parks are not achievable on the cheap, but they are far too costly to lose. We cannot afford to give any more ground. We keep it tidy, we promote the green flag, we see that very much as us putting our flag in the ground. It is a standard, we're very proud of the standard, it's a very high standard, but it should be the minimum standard, and it should be that everybody has access to green flag space.
Which we've managed them, but it has been a real challenge to manage them to the standard that they should be maintained to, and that was shown certainly through COVID, and that standard should be green flag standard. We need significant targeted ring-fenced investment, revenue and capital, and this has to be aimed primarily at local authorities. Most of all, to talk to people who manage parks. It's what we do. We are passionate about it.
Since that important report, the situation has unfortunately deteriorated further at a time when parks have never been so popular or valued. Despite the extensive voluntary efforts of those of us in the Parks Action Group, not to mention the heroic efforts of park staff and volunteers in every corner of the country, the government has so far failed totally to back up its pledges of support with real resources that are desperately needed.
The government response to the Public Parks Select Committee clearly stated a recommendation that it would work with a local government association to develop and implement options for establishing and supporting national or regional park managers forums in England. It hasn't happened. We need investment plan that is long term and it's revenue based, and we rebuild skills and employment in the sector. We need to bring young people in, and we need to focus on activities that can address climate change as well as health and well-being and levelling up. That would be a real green recovery.
Yes, we do need to have a look at where things are still going wrong. I take the point absolutely that overall things are not getting better because of the funding constraints. So what I certainly look at, whether we can go to a full-scale select committee inquiry, that will take a long time anyway. Maybe a quick hearing sessions where we ask the various organisations who gave evidence last time, many of them represented here today, to come forward and tell us what has happened since the last inquiry, where things are still failing, where things are going backwards rather than forwards, and then we can pick that up and go back to government with and get answers from ministers on that. I think that at least will take some momentum and start to challenge ministers again in a formal way about what hasn't happened since the last inquiry and what has gone backwards.
I think what is amazing to me is the enthusiasm that there is. And there's anger as well, obviously, about what's happening to parks, but the enthusiasm for actually doing something positive and getting it right